Okay, so today we have to just go back to 2.1.5. That's the only one left. So on this one, so if you can see, our constructor was created. We did our has expired, where we just had to convert our dates to our strings to dates so that we can compare them. We increased our issue number, and we did our toString method. This was 0.6. So now the only one left is our 0.5. So let's quickly read this question. So the question is, write a method called generate security code. So that's the name of the method. To compile a new security code to be assigned to the F security code attribute. The code must consist of 10 randomly generated characters grouped between 0 to 9 and 8 to F in pairs with colons separating them. There's an example of it. So when you read this question, did they say we're going to return anything? No. So if we're not returning anything, what word do we use initially? Anybody? A procedure. Alright, so remember that's our difference between function and procedure. Procedure does not return anything, a function returns something. So they didn't want us to return anything. We just need to assign it to our attribute. So it's sort a type of mutator that we're doing now, because we just want to change the security code. So that means this is a procedure. Okay, they said the name of this thing should be generate security code. So we call it generate security code. Then with this one, did they say we're going to receive any parameters? No, we're not receiving any parameters because everything is in any case just randomly generated numbers. We don't need any additional information to do this program. So there's no parameters. Because it's a procedure, do I need a data type at the end? No. If it's a function, we do need that data type at the end. Why? Yes. Because remember, our function returns a value, and the returning value should be of that data type. Alright. But we don't need that. Then we press Ctrl-Shift-C. Creates this part for us. Now we just have to go do what they ask us to do. Now, the easiest way to do this, whenever you want to, can we generate a random alphabet letter? Yes. Okay, actually not. Do you agree? Our random numbers are just, we can get a random number. But now we can sort of use that to get a random alphabet letter. But we can't say random open bracket A to F. It's not going to give us that. We can only generate random numbers, but we have to make it work. So the best way, whenever you want any random, anything else, I want to suggest the best way is to have a variable with all the options inside. So I would suggest you create a variable, maybe call it base, type string, and then inside base, you give it all the options it could possibly be. So in our case, it must be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. That's our possibilities. So if they wanted a random alphabet letter from the whole alphabet, you just create a space and you'll put the whole alphabet from A to Z inside. It doesn't need to be alphabetical, but it's nice to have it alphabetical so that you can see that you don't skip something. And if they wanted a random vowel, create a base with only vowels inside, and so forth and so forth. So I want to suggest this is the easiest way to do that. There are other ways. Some of you could have used ASCII code, and that's good. You could have also done that. It would have also worked. The only problem I've got with ASCII code, for the people that did that, did any of you use ASCII code to do this particular one? I did. Okay, so there's two of you. And did you go to the internet to just go check again? Yes. Okay, remember in the exam, you won't have the internet as an option. So either you need to know all the ASCII numbers like out of your mind, or you're going to need to spend some time to just test to make sure where's the A again, because most of you will have a good idea of where they are, but not exactly. So in this way, you don't need to learn that as such. So you put all your options in there. Now remember with a string, what is the position of this character? Yeah. So it's position 1. And position 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of them's got positions up until position 16. So each of these numbers inside, or each of these characters, have got a particular position ranging from 1 to 16. So what we can now do is we can just go generate a random number in that range and just take the character at that position. So we can generate a random number 5, for argument's sake, and then take the 5th character. Or generate a random character 11 and take the 11th character, and so forth. So that's, I want to suggest, now it's easier and it will always work. As I said, it doesn't matter what they want. If you make your base with all the options, you generate a random with all the positions, and then you just take the character at that position. Then you'll always get a random in that range. Alright, so now we know our next thing is we want a random number to tell us the position that's the one we want. So for that, let's just create a ran, which is an integer. So this is our random position. Must be random. Because we do random, we just do randomize. Remember, we said our positions is from 1 to 16. So what should be inside here? 16. So it's actually 16, it's highest minus lowest plus 1. But minus 1 plus 1 is just cancels each other out actually. So if you just put 16, that's also fine. I'm going to leave it like this just so that we can remember this is where it came from. Highest number, which is 16, minus the lowest number, which is the 1, plus 1 always, outside, plus lowest number. Okay, so this will give us a random position. So, so let's say we want 1 digit. If we've got the base and we've got this, how can I get the random character or random digit from that list? How can I do that? If you know, let's say this random number generated 5. How can I get the 5th character from there? Yes, yes. Yeah, so base, and then you remember you can use your square brackets. And we want the one at the position of rand. That will give us that one. If you wanted to use the copy function, you could have also done that. Where you could have sent copy out of base. You want to start at the position of rand, and you only want 1 character. Okay, so it's the same thing. Obviously, this one's just easier. It's shorter. But that will also work. So now we've got 1. But our problem is we need 10 of them, and they need to be separated by colons. How can we make that happen now? What do you think? So it basically means this piece of code we have to repeat 10 times. So who's got some ideas? What can we do? Let's see, somebody else. Miranda, do you have an idea? Oh, not yes. Yes. As soon as you want to do the same code over and over again, that just means a for loop. Well, it means a loop, but because we know we're going to do it a set amount of times, which is 10, because we need 10 of them, so we can use a for loop. Our randomize only needs to happen once. Creating the base only needs to happen once. So they will be before. But generating a random number, because we want another position every time, and then taking the character at that position must also be every other time. So for these ones, we need to be in the for loop. And we need it to happen 10 times. We can see we've already got 2 lines in there. So we know we need our begin and end for this. Alright, so this will now generate 10 of them, but the problem is it's going to overwrite the whole time. So this digit's only one digit every time, so we need to do something with this digit so that we can actually keep it. So what can we do? Yes, Irfan. Yeah. So we can create now one here, let's call it code. And then we can say the code must just be whatever the code was, because we want to keep what's in there, but we want to add this digit to it the whole time. So what it will do, it will generate a digit, put it in code. Then the next time generate another digit and add it to what's already in code. Then generate another digit, add it to what's already in code. And that will stack up 10 times. So that will have all our 10. So this is very good except for our colons. But let's ignore the colons for now. Let's say our code is sorted now. Remember the question asked us, we must do that, and then we have to assign it to F security code. So what do I need to do in here? To assign it to F security code. What do they actually mean? So Leah, do you have an idea for us? See, so if they say assign it, it just means our F security code must just get the value of this code we just generated. Okay, so this is 100% except for the colons now. We just need to add the colons. But otherwise this works exactly what we need. Yes? Alright, so we can, if you want to initialize the code variable, you can. Because it's a string starts empty actually. But it's a good principle to actually initialize it because an integer and a double doesn't start empty. So it may be good to just say, okay, let's just start our code empty before we start. So it's a good thing to do. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Inside the folder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside you copy just before the last column.
Okay, how do we add the column?
That's the second one.
How do we do that? You're 100% right, but I just want to know how. Yes.
So I think it means after you write code plus VIP plus then a code import.
Okay.
And the two maybe.
Okay, the problem with this one, it's going to add a digit, then a colon. Then a digit, then a colon, then a digit, then a colon. So it's going to be single digits every time with colons separating them. Alright, so the trick here is we don't want a colon every time. We only want it sometimes. So if you look at our question, when do we want a colon? After the second one, after the fourth one, after the sixth one, after the eighth one. You see, so it's after every even position. 2, 4, 6, 8. After every even position, we want the colon. That's still?
I generated my number. I called string variable with the base acquisition, whatever I want. And then I said if I is equal to 4, I is equal to 4, I is equal to 6, or I is equal to 8. The next code will be what it was, plus a colon, and then
Alright, so that's good. It's just your if doesn't sound as nice because it's this or this, but it would work fine. I'm going to go with Toba's one. His if looks better, but there's a small problem at the end which you already solved, but we'll see that just now. So because it's after 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so it's after all the even numbers, we want colon. So we can just say, so if our position, remember I is the position because it's the first character, second or second. So if our I, but divided by 2 is equal to 0. So if it's an even position, then our code must become whatever the code was plus the colon. So this works fine. The only problem we've got here is when we get to position 10, the last one, it also adds a colon. So think about it. How can we solve that? Okay, sorry people. Okay, so who's got a solution now? So the problem we've got now is we've got this extra colon right at the end that we don't want. How can we solve this thing? Yeah. Okay, nice solution. So we can say if it's an even number, we want that, and I must be less than 9, so that it doesn't do the 10th one. So this will then just add the colons to all even ones except the 10 one. And that's it. So you could have done this different ways. You could have done that way, or you could have said I and I is not equal to 10, whatever. But let's stick to that one. What Toba suggested was he would have ignored that, and then on the outside, when he assigned it, he just wanted to say copy out of code from position 1 and only take the first 14 characters. So the 10 with the 4 colons. So that's actually because at this stage there's actually 15 because the additional colon is added. So you would have said just copy the first 14. And that would have also cut out the last colon. So that's also 100% fine. But personally I like this one more. Just because. Same marks and everything. Alright, and that's this one. Any questions on this? Yes. Equals is also fine. See, the thing is 9 isn't an even number. So if you add equals to 9, it still won't apply to this one. So it doesn't actually matter. 8 is the last one that should work. Alright, so the main thing for this, remember everything we've done in here is actually a question 1 question. The only thing that came in new by OOP is we needed to realize it's a procedure. We needed to write it on top. We needed to say procedure here with a name, Control-Shift-C, and then just assigned our code to security code. That's the only new part now. The rest, if you struggled a bit with this, it's just because of the long holiday rest, I think. This is just thinking of a solution. But this is a good thing, the way that I showed you now with this space. They're gonna, lots of times, I think if you think back to grade 10, there was a few times where we wanted a random character, maybe from a name or something. So try to use this, keep this in mind when you create the base and then generate random from there. It just makes it easier. Alright, everybody good with this? Okay, let me just